At that moment, you realise I'm stumped. When you start looking at rentals in France, there's something no one tells you until you're sitting across from the agent or landlord. They'll smile, they'll nod, and then they'll say, no French income tax statement, no lease. At that moment, you realise I'm stumped. In France, it works differently, and unless you understand the system, it can feel like a tax on foreigners you'll have to pay, or very unfair. So today, I wanted to break this down for you like a friend would, to show you the two real options you'll face, how much they cost, and why one of them almost always leaves you feeling freer and better off. Now, before we get into the numbers, here's why this system exists. In France, it's super difficult for landlords to evict their tenants. It can sometimes take years, so naturally landlords want to be absolutely certain you will pay the rent on time. French landlords can only take out rental insurance if you have French income tax statement, and if you don't, they're stuck. And that's where these two options come in. Caution Bancaire is the first one, essentially freezing 12 months rent in a French bank account in like an escrow solution, or a third-party guarantor service like Guarantor, Smart Guarantor, there's loads of them out there. Both options feel frustrating, but the differences between the two are absolutely massive. A Caution Bancaire sounds pretty simple. You put down a year's rent up front in the escrow account, and the bank guarantees it to the landlord. But here's what it really means. If your rent is €2,000 a month, that's okay, frozen. To even get one, you need an established French bank account. Most banks won't hand this out to newcomers, and typically you need the address anyway to get that French bank account in place. So there's a catch-22 there. Often the bank insists it's placed into an assurance vie, which is like a life insurance style wrapper. That means the money isn't just frozen, it's locked inside a product that's hard to unwind for up to, if you're trying to take it out in under 7 years. And for Americans, it creates a whole new problem. Tax reporting. The IRS treats assurance vie accounts as foreign life policies, which are a pain to report. For Brits, it's less damaging, I'd say, but it's still inflexible and pretty cumbersome. Now let's compare that to the third-party guarantor service. Here's how it works. You apply online with your documents. If you're accepted, the guarantor issues a certificate. That certificate you would include in your dossier, and it's what the landlord or agency relies on. It means if you ever default, the guarantor steps in and pays them. It's not free. The cost is between 3.5% and 5% of the annual rent paid upfront each year. So on the €2,000 a month, that's between €840 and €1,200 per year. And once you've paid it, you're free. No €24,000 locked up, no banking gymnastics, no IRS headaches. So let me give you a real example. I worked with a couple moving to Strasbourg. They had their eye on a beautiful apartment, Osmanian style, right on the river, €3,000 a month in rent. Now, the guarantor fee at that level isn't small. At 3.5% to 5%, that's between €1,200 and €1,800 per year. But here's the thing. The alternative would have been a Caution Bancaire of €36,000 frozen. For them, the guarantor wasn't just cheaper, it was freedom. They could pursue the property they wanted without wiring tens of thousands over from the States. And that's the real value. Choice, speed, and the freedom to say yes when you find the right home. Let's look at this in simple numbers. Year one, on a €2,000 rental, the Caution Bancaire would have been about €24,000 locked in the escrow account. Under the guarantor, you'd be looking at between $800 and $1,200 in fees. That's a difference of over €22,000 in available cash for that year. And remember, that's just year one. Stretch that out over 2 or 3 years and the picture sharpens. With a Caution Bancaire, the €24,000 is still frozen. With a guarantor, you've maybe paid €3,000 total over the 3 years. Meanwhile, if that €24,000 was invested or even just sitting in an interest-bearing account back home at 4%, you'd make about €1,000 a year in growth. That's money you would never have seen if it was stuck in the escrow account. So, over time, that gap doesn't just shrink, it actually widens, compounds against you. And then there's the part of the spreadsheets don't actually capture, the psychology. Imagine logging into your account and seeing the €24,000 trapped there. You can't touch it. It's just sitting like a weight on your shoulders, knowing that you have another round of reporting to do. And instead, imagine what that money could be doing for you. It could pay for a year of French language classes. It could fund all those long weekends exploring Europe. It could buy you your first car in France. With the guarantor, yes, you pay an annual fee, but you keep your freedom. Your cash can still serve your life. There is one situation where the Caution Bancaire may be the only way. That's if you absolutely have no income, not in France, not abroad, just savings. And most likely a guarantor will reject you on the spot. Even then, it only works if you already have a strong French banking relationship. Without that, most newcomers won't get it. For Americans, it's a tax headache, like I said, wrapped in that assurance vie. For Brits or other nationals, it's possible, but pretty clunky. And in reality, many people in this position end up skipping the rental stage altogether and going straight into buying a home instead. So here's the quick guide. If you're American, the guarantor is almost always the best path. If you're British or Australian or Kiwi with a strong income abroad, the guarantor still usually makes more sense. But if you have no income at all, the Caution Bancaire may be the only fallback. But more often than not, people in that situation end up buying because it's so tedious. So yes, the guarantor feels like a tax. It's frustrating. It's money you'd rather not spend. But when you compare it to freezing 24K for years, it's the smarter, cheaper and freer choice. Don't let the Caution Bancaire trap lock up your cash and slow down your move. The guarantor may feel unfair, but it's usually the option that gets you living in France faster and with much more flexibility. Just to be clear, this isn't financial or legal advice. It's guidance based on years of helping people make these kinds of moves. Thank you for listening. I know this side of renting in France can feel overwhelming. If you've got unanswered questions, I've linked my moving checklist in the description. Have a look and hopefully it makes your move a whole lot smoother. Bonne chance. Catch you soon.